On Larry King Now, host, author, and activist Padma Lakshmi.
I'm very proud of our show. I think not only has it helped to change the conversation about food in this country, I think there's a whole generation of young people who know much more about food than when you or I were teenagers. I think that is the thing that we forget about sexual harassment. You know, some people have said, oh, but so-and-so is so progressive, or so-and-so is so nice, or so-and-so hires so many women. It doesn't make a difference. We all deserve equal opportunity, the equal chance to make something for ourselves, for our children, to make enough of ourselves so that then we can contribute to that same society that gave us that opportunity, to pay it forward.
Plus, who's a person you trade places with for a day?
Donald Trump, because I think I could do a better job. But if not to help the country, then Rihanna.
It's all next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now. Our guest today is Emmy-nominated author, activist, actress, host, and food expert, Padma Lakshmi. Padma is the longtime host, judge, and executive producer of Top Chef. She's also a spokesperson for the ACLU and co-founder of the Endometriosis Foundation of America. The 15th season of Top Chef airs Thursdays at 10 p.m., 9 Central on Bravo. Where did this love for food start?
I think it started in my grandmother's kitchen. You know, in my family, when I was first very small, we grew up in an extended family in South India. And all of the action took place in the kitchen. It's where all the family gossip was exchanged. It's where all the decisions were made. And my grandmother didn't grow up with a fridge. You know, she only got a fridge when she was around 30, so she really never knew what to do with it. And she preferred every meal fresh. And there were about 8 to 10 of us in this 2-room apartment. And so we were constantly cooking. My aunts helped, and there was a real hierarchy to what you were allowed to do at every different age range. So when I first was there, I could only break off the ends of beans. Then you would graduate to finally making tea at the stove. I still don't know the recipe for some of the things she makes, and I keep telling her, you know, you're not going to live forever. You got to give me this information.
Are you a certified chef? I mean,
I'm not a chef. Thank you for asking. I'm not a chef, nor do I want to be.
What are you?
Well, I'm a food writer, and you know, my job is to write recipes so that you can go and cook in your own home well without me standing right there. A chef is a very specific name, a very specific title. It comes from the French military. It is somebody who commands a kitchen army of staff. That's why you have commis, saucier, sous chef, all of that, garde-manger. It is a very specific thing, and a lot of people don't know that. They will say, oh, so-and-so is a celebrity chef, or, you know, this person's a chef. Julia Child, not a chef. James Beard, not a chef. Tom Colicchio, chef. You know, there's a difference.
Are you a model who writes about cooking?
That's how I started, yes. I started modeling after college, and after I did my first movie, I had to lose weight, and I wanted to do that in a healthy way. I had gained 20 pounds for this role, and I always loved to cook, and I started to find ways to make healthy meals. I was still making most of my living as a model, and that's how the first book, Easy Exotic, came about.
You left India early, though, right?
I did. I left when I was 4. My mother had a very turbulent arranged marriage. She came to New York, as many health professionals did in the 70s, and she worked at Sloan Kettering, and I followed her, and I've been, you know, in America ever since. So I am an immigrant, but I also go back to India very often.
Are you partial to Indian cooking?
I find Indian cooking comforting and home. That's what home cooking is to me, but I don't go out a lot to eat Indian food. You know, traditionally Indians don't have the culture of going out to eat. It's like if you talk to my grandmother or even some people in my mother's generation, they would say we're going out to eat means we're going to the hotel, because that's where the restaurants were. So the Indian food that you get, or most Westerners taste in Indian restaurants, is one type of North Indian cooking that's very delicious, but not at all like most Indians in India or anywhere else eat.
The best bread, though.
The best bread, yes. Yeah.
Now, you've been with Top Chef since its second year. It's now in its 15th.
15th season.
Why does it work?
There are a lot of food shows, and I think we're the gold standard because the food is really important. You know, there is the gamut of reality programming to the, very smarmy, terrible TV, all the way to very serious television. And I think we're very serious about food, about the art of making it, about what it means to be a really talented chef. And when we came out, you never really had a show about professional chefs. And I think that was new for everybody. And I think we were just able to catch this wave, this zeitgeist of when food became, fetishized in this country. And now chefs are like rock stars.
The concept of celebrity chefs because of television helped the food business? Has it made people more aware of food? Or is there a downside to it?
I think it's done both. I think that I'm very proud of our show. I think not only has it helped to change the conversation about food in this country, I think there's a whole generation of young people who know much more about food than when you or I were teenagers. I think they're very aware of that. I mean, I can't tell you, our fans are very young. They stay young. Oh, yeah, our fans are like 18 to 29 and then 18 to 35, and they've remained that age. And I think it's because it's one of the few things you can watch with your kids that's not sports on TV. And so, it's very exciting. It's very compelling to see someone try to be the best they can be at their job, whether that is singing or dancing or playing, basketball.
Do some people want to be chefs for the wrong reason?
I think that is the downside of all this, chef TV-dom. And I think there are people who have gotten unnecessarily famous for not really knowing what they're talking about, and, but they have a great personality, and I'm sure that happens in every profession.
Are there some people natural cooks?
Yes, there are.
Just put them in a kitchen and they know what to do.
Yeah, I'm a natural cook. And I think if I'm not a chef. If you saw me, chop up an onion, you would be highly unimpressed. But what I do have is a very sensitive palate. And I've always had that. I think that's why I always hung around in the kitchen when I was very young. And so I can usually go anywhere in the world. And when I was a model, I had the occasion to go to lots of places most young people don't have the opportunity to. And I could taste any plate of food and tell what was in it and recreate it because of my nose and my palate.
Our guest is Padma Lakshmi. We're discussing her work for the ACLU and what the sexual harassment allegations in Hollywood mean for the restaurant industry. I'm not kidding. Stay with us. We're back with Padma Lakshmi. It must be an Indian name.
It is, yes, very Indian.
Okay, your co-host, Tom Colicchio, recently wrote an open letter about sexual harassment in the restaurant industry. Very critical of what's going on. Is there a lot of it?
I mean, I'm not a chef, and I don't work in restaurants, but even I know that what he was talking about was no news or surprise to anyone. I'm glad he wrote the letter, but I don't think, anybody was surprised by the information contained in it. Listen, I mean, the professional food industry is one of the most male-dominated professions you can be in. I would venture to say that the only thing more male-dominated is probably the military. And it's long hours, it's manual labor, and there is this kind of, it's a very macho, it's very, very macho, and it's a boys' club, and it's very hard for women to even break in to the business. It's also not family-friendly, and the hours are really horrible. You're on your feet all day. Now, that doesn't mean that women can't succeed in it. I know many chefs who are women who are brilliant. Barbara Lynch, Suzanne Goen, April Bloomfield, Dominique Crenn, and on and on and on. And we've certainly had winners on Top Chef who have been female, but we stack the deck. We openly stack the deck so that every season we start out with an equal number of male and female contestants. But that is not what the restaurant industry is like. On the contrary, it's very hard.
So there's a lot of harassment.
Yeah, there's a lot of harassment.
Quid pro quo.
There's a lot of harassment. There's a lot, Larry, there's a lot of harassment, as you know, in every industry.
Modeling. You were
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Did you see it? Were you a victim of it?
Yes, I did. Yes, I was. You know, I don't think you would be hard-pressed to talk to any serious professional woman, whether she was a model, an actress, a doctor, or an accountant, who hadn't gone through some form of sexual harassment.
When it happened, did you report it?
No, I did not.
Why not?
Because I knew that nothing would be done. And it was an open secret that you just plugged your nose, tried to avoid it as much as it's possible. But, you know, there was no way around it.
You think it's good that it's all coming out now?
I think it's very good. I think it's incredibly painful, but I think it's very important. I was there the day that Matt Lauer was fired on the Today Show. I was doing a cooking segment last week, and it was such a strange environment to be in. And I think that is the thing that we forget about sexual harassment. You know, some people have said, oh, but so-and-so is so progressive, or so-and-so is so nice, or so-and-so hires so many women. It doesn't make a difference. So I don't know the specifics of Matt Lauer's case, so I cannot speak to anything but my own experience. But I do know, as somebody who has suffered from both sexual assault and sexual harassment, both as a minor and as a professional woman, that there is little upside when a woman or girl comes forward. There is an upside for society at large, in the macro and philosophical sense, but when you're sitting in your skin and you feel humiliated and you're told to be nice, to be respectful, to be open, to be friendly, because that's the kind of people they want to hire. You know, this is, you want to make yourself popular enough, seem like likable enough so that that person will want you in the office. It's really hard. Then after it happens, it's so hard to process. You know, you feel like, did that really happen? And did I say or do something to invite it?
Why does someone as successful as Matt Lauer, what does he need that for?
You know,
that's a psychological
I think it's sexual voraciousness. I think it's greed. I think sex is about power. Of course it's about power. And I think that, you know, you do because you can. Like, a decent person doesn't do that. A decent person doesn't need to be told what is against the law. A decent person has a compass of what is right or wrong. I guess we
assume that successful people are decent.
Well, you bring up a very good point. Just because you're really good at your job, whether it's being a producer, a writer, a director, whatever, or a host, doesn't mean you're a good moral person.
Correct.
Or that you can control your appetites.
You are an ACLU ambassador. I'm a member of the ACLU. And you are ambassador for immigrant and women's rights.
Yes.
You're an immigrant. I'm the son of immigrants. What is your role?
I am hoping to help the ACLU make people understand that equal rights means equal rights for everyone in our country, even those who are not necessarily citizens. I believe that this country was built on immigrant labor. And the thing that makes America great, truly great, around the world, despite whatever our foreign policy may or may not have been at any period in history, is the fact that is the ideal that anybody can come to this country and make a life for themselves if they work hard. That, you know, we will allow everyone equal opportunity. We're not all equal. You know, I'm never going to be an astrophysicist. Someone else is never going to be an NBA player. But we all deserve equal opportunity, the equal chance to make something for ourselves, for our children, to make enough of ourselves so that then we can contribute to that same society that gave us that opportunity, to pay it forward. And that's what I'm trying to do with the ACLU.
Coming up, Padma on It Foods and It Chefs, plus the foundation she started for women's health. We'll be right back. We're back with Padma Lakshmi. She is the host, judge, executive producer. She's the Gunsa McGilla at Top Chef, spokesperson for the ACLU, and she's also co-founder of the Endometriosis Foundation of America. Interesting. I never get personal on this show, but when I first met my wife before we were married, she had endometriosis. She went into the hospital. Whatever they did, they did. She got out in 2 days. That was 20 years ago. Never bothered her again.
See?
What is endometriosis?
Endometriosis is when the endometrium, or the lining of the uterus, cannot be expelled by the body every month when a woman gets her period, as is normal in a healthy woman of childbearing age. It's a disease that develops part and parcel with a girl's womanhood and starts at puberty. And what happens in a patient who has endometriosis is that that lining, since it cannot be pushed out naturally by the body, gets reabsorbed by the body. And it's very juicy, fertile tissue. It is designed by Mother Nature to house an embryo and feed it and nourish it and protect it and turn that embryo into a healthy, bouncing baby. So if the body can't get rid of it, it stays in the body, it pools in what's called the cul-de-sac at the bottom, and then it becomes reanimate, like weeds in a garden. And it starts to grow, and it attaches itself all over the place.
And surgery is what cures it, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
well, there's no cure for endometriosis, but there is good, serious treatment. And you're right, Larry.
she never got it back, and she had 2 children since.
Yeah, well, sometimes you can get it back, so I don't want to generalize. Every case is a little different. But you are right in saying at the EFA, or the Endometriosis Foundation of America, which I helped to start with my surgeon, Dr. Tamer Seckin, we believe that the gold standard of treatment for this illness is surgical laparoscopic excision. Now, that's a very long word, but it's an important word, because you can go in laparoscopically, which is with a camera in a small hole rather than cutting a woman wide open, and you can still burn that tissue off. Some doctors will laser it off. We don't think that's good, because you don't know how much you're burning. Burning can leave scar tissue. You also can't excise or remove the tissue to study it and to see what's going on. There are early research now that tells us there is a link between endometriosis and ovarian cancer. I had my first surgery at 36. I had my first period at 13. That means every month for every year, for 23 years, I was down with cramps, nausea, backache, shooting pain down one leg, headaches. I was bedridden for 4 or 5 days every month. Think of all the soccer games and, family dinners and school dances I missed. I can't get that time back. And it was only after that I finally got the surgery that I realized, like your wife, how great life is if you're not shackled by this chronic pain and condition.
It's not taboo to talk about it anymore, is it?
Not for me. I mean, it was hard when I first started talking about it. My doctor lobbied me forever to speak out publicly about it. And I think I'm a pretty open person, but nobody wants to get on TV and talk about their vagina.
Are you okay now?
I'm fine now, thank you. I have a nice, healthy little girl, and I'm very thankful for her, but I was told I wouldn't ever be able to have children.
Okay, we play a little game called If You Only Knew.
Okay.
Who is your childhood celebrity crush?
I think my first crush was probably Tom Selleck.
Not bad. Secret talent?
I can box and roller skate.
Food you're embarrassed to say you enjoy?
Movie theater nachos, the really orange gooey sauce.
I like them too.
Yeah.
Next it food?
I'm not into it foods. I have to be honest.
Give me an example. What's it?
Well, what's an it food? An it food is put an egg on everything. That one I actually like because But there's also kale. Kale was always good for you.
What is kale in this?
Does
kale have a taste? I have a friend who has kale every day.
You have to put a lot of taste in it. It is good for you, and I like kale, but the trend of it now is ridiculous. Avocado toast, another thing.
Avocado what?
Toast. Oh, come on, Larry. Surely you've had toast with, sliced avocado and guacamole.
I'm not an avocado man.
Well, this is the it food that just went right over you.
A chef you'd trade places with for a day?
No one. I wouldn't want to be a chef if you paid me.
Who's a person you'd trade places with for a day?
Donald Trump, because I think I could do a better job. But if not to help the country, then Rihanna.
Last time you were starstruck?
I met Muhammad Ali once.
He was a great friend of mine, the best. He was the best.
I love Muhammad Ali, and I had just come from boxing practice, so it was doubly sweet. He was in the line behind me at the dry cleaners here on Kings Road, actually, and I still had my wraps on. And it was the kind where they do all the dry cleaning on the premises, and I heard the bell of the door open, and I saw 30 people in front of me. I was at the counter, stop what they were doing, and their jaw dropped. And I turned around, and you know, you don't think of him as big because he's so lean. He's massive, and it was a real moment for me.
He's also a sweet, kind, wonderful person. Guilty pleasure.
It sounds very pedestrian, honestly, but spending the whole Sunday in my pajamas with the New York Times spread all over the bed and all the books I want to read.
Last time you were starstruck.
Well, I can tell you another person I was starstruck. I once met Mother Teresa.
Oh.
And I spent the afternoon with her, just an hour and a half, but it was a meaningful moment for me. I'm not even Catholic, but I was in India for the World Cup. I was cutting a ribbon or something. And I was in Calcutta, and we went to visit her at the Sisters of Mercy. And I walked up this little alleyway, and she's very tiny, and she has a club foot. I never knew that. She kind of drags her foot. I don't know if she had polio when she was young, and she was very sweet. I was with people who were Italian, and so I was speaking Italian. She somehow got mixed up and thought I was Indian but adopted by Italians or something. It was one of the, she's very charismatic. You know, it's really... I felt like...
She changed the room, right?
She changed me. I mean, I felt very peaceful and elated. Like, you know, when you're a child and you feel at peace that nothing's wrong, when you're in your mother's arms, you never feel that happy-go-lucky as an adult somehow. I felt like that in her presence. Very kind woman.
Best compliment you ever got?
That I was funny.
Weirdest job you've ever had?
I was a student, a teacher's assistant for a science professor in college. I was a work study student
school?
At Clark University.
Something you wish you were better at?
Anything tech-related, the internet, my social media, my computer, anything with buttons.
I don't go near it. Padma will answer your social media questions in our final segment. Top Chef airs Thursdays at 10 p.m. on Bravo. More after this. We're back with Padma Lakshmi, great guest.
Thank you.
This is the first of many visits.
I hope so, too.
Okay, you used to box. You still box?
I do. I've taken a break from it because I had some shoulder trouble.
You said boxing taught you some important lessons about life, like?
Well, even though I'm tall, I was often bullied when I was in junior high and high school. And so I never had physical confidence. I think that also harkens back to being sexually abused as a child. And boxing gave me physical confidence. I stood up straighter. But the most important thing boxing gave me is mental peace. When somebody is, you know, about to hit you, you can't really, daydream. You have to be in the present moment. And as much as boxing has done for my body physically, it's done exceptionally more for me mentally and emotionally. It's given me that confidence. I know I can protect myself. And, you know, I live in New York City, so it's a good thing to know. It's a lot safer than when I was a kid in New York. But, and it also gave me focus, which I really, really appreciate.
Some social media questions. Malacuti, what kind of diet do you follow?
When I'm not working, I follow mostly a plant-based diet. I'll eat a little chicken and fish, occasionally some bacon in my pasta if it's carbonara, but I really believe that the less meat we eat, the healthier it is for both ourselves and the planet. If you think about what it costs for a serving of meat, it's about $2.50, even if you don't do filet mignon. And what it costs for the environment as far as the carbon footprint and all the diseases and all the antibiotics, versus if you eat some plant-based protein like lentils or, you know, just white beans or whatever. Those are pennies. It's less than a quarter to do one serving of that. And when you plant beans and pulses, the soil is actually enriched because it turns over, you know, different gases.
Do you like the vegan movement?
I like milk, and I love French and Italian cheeses, so I probably should eat less dairy, but I need to leave myself a couple vices.
Samantha Bishop, via our blog, what women are inspiring you right now?
America Ferrara, inspires me. Cecile Richards is incredibly inspiring to me. There are a lot of inspiring women around. I think Elizabeth Warren and Kamala Harris really inspires me.
You're best known for Top Chef, and you do so much. What's the most important thing to you professionally?
Professionally is being a writer. I consider myself a writer first.
You write for who?
I used to write for Vogue and Harper's Bazaar and the New York Times. I had a syndicated column with them for a little while, but now I just write books. I wrote a memoir last year, which was lucky enough to make the New York Times list, so that was probably one of the hardest things I ever had to do professionally. I have a very deep love of books. My grandfather taught me that, and I'm always in awe of people like Toni Morrison or Joan Didion or Mary Karr. Those people inspire me.
I don't know what I'd do without a book.
Exactly, exactly. So that is, I think at the end of my life, when I look back on my career, I would like to think that my work with things like the Endometriosis Foundation or the ACLU or Planned Parenthood, which I'm also involved in, and my writing is what will be my legacy. TV's great, but, you know.
Hey, delight meeting you.
Nice to meet you, Larry.
Thanks to my guest, Padma Lakshmi. The 15th season of Top Chef airs Thursdays at 10 p.m. on Bravo. You can always find me on Twitter at King's Things, and I'll see you next time.